was like, wow, where did the time go? So it's not quite a full hour, so hopefully we can get everybody through it and out before that, although it is a 1 hour guarantee. So hey, it's a win-win, I think. Don't you think? So as you can see, we have the screen. It's we won't be videotaping that because it's too light, but it is on adverse weather, and that's all weather adverse, you know. So just more helpful hints and, on that related information. Kevin's going to cover that. So and a few other things. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kevin so we can get this going. Make sure if you have cell phones, you got them down on vibrate. Because we are videotaping this, and I really don't want all that to set it off.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your October, November safety meeting. Time is flying by. Welcome to your November safety meeting. If you would, please make sure your cell phones are on vibrate or silent so they don't interrupt or interfere with the class. The October safety meeting is online now. For those of you that need to make up the October meeting online, it is online. You'll access it the same way you did your in-service or your September meeting. The only difference is the October meeting deadline is the end of the month instead of the 16th. So, and we will post signs.
It's on there now?
It's on there now.
Okay.
You have till the end of November?
You have till November 30th to do the October.
It shows that she washed it on there, I'm assuming.
Just like Safe Schools.
It does, just like Safe School.
It records it when you go on there and you log in with your 6-digit ID number. It will record you doing it. Now, as we want to make sure that you're aware of, they're in bits. So there might be 3 or 4 different. They break it up. They break up the video. So if there's 4 different links on there, you have to do it all, or it's going to show that you did not complete it. In which case, you won't get, you know, your pay, or you'll have to go back in and make it up.
Was October mandatory?
Yes.
Yes. So there's like,
Yes, September, October, and November are all mandatory.
I think there's like maybe 3 or 4 modules. It might be like 9 minutes long, one's 9 minutes long, one's 12 minutes long, so and so for the duration of the meeting. Kind of like Safe Schools, when you went in and did Safe Schools and you do the module,
Right.
the introduction, module 1, 2, 3. If you only watch the first 2 modules and you have to go, and you can't watch the whole thing, make sure that you go up to your 6-digit identifier, hit that box to the drop down where it says log out and log out. Otherwise, it will not record your progress and you'll have to do it all over again. Okay? Just so you don't have to do it more than once. So today we're going to be talking about preparing for adverse weather. Just going to go over some safety tips and reminders, a few things about defensive driving in winter weather, adverse weather conditions. As everybody knows, winter is upon us, it has arrived. We do have snow in the forecast soon. So we want everybody to be prepared for the winter weather. Of course, everything is like business as usual, but we need to be mindful of the cold weather, the effect it's going to have on our students, and the effect that it's going to have on us, and the challenges that we're going to face transporting on the roadways with snow and ice on them. So think about yourselves and what you can do to stay prepared for it. So first thing, make sure you notify dispatch of your correct phone number. That's how you get notified that there's no school that day. Also make sure that your information with HR is updated with all the correct information, and you have updated phone numbers through that, because that's where the automated system comes through, is through the HR department, not through the transportation department. Okay? The automated system is an HR thing, so you need to make sure you're going in and updating your HR information, your information sheet on yourself with accurate numbers and stuff so you can be contacted. Dispatch may need to contact you if schools are released early. If you drive to different schools like Rockwood, Parkway, other out-of-district schools, then you're going to need to pay attention to their cancellations and their schedules and stuff as well. Why we have calendars for all the different districts, so you can follow their calendars, so you know when they're in school, when they're not in school, when they're having early outs, when they're having late ins, all that different things that they do that are a little bit different than SSD. Of course, always check with dispatch. Make sure you're watching the weather channels, or listening to the radio for your local forecast and advisories. You can always go online to the news stations online, or you can go on the TVs and look at the school closings on the TVs in the mornings when you get up for the different school closings. Everything is done automated now through computerized stuff, so pretty much every channel gets notified about the same time. When SSD calls off and they make that notification or send that notification out, it pretty much goes everywhere all at the same time. So there's no one specific channel that you should be watching before the other, because they all should get the information about the same time. Now, I don't know how fast they get it up on their screens. That's a different story. You want to make sure that you're setting your alarm clocks a little earlier than usual when it gets to the winter time, because you're going to need a little extra time. Pretty self-explanatory. Might have a little trouble getting your door unlocked in the morning, getting in your car, it maybe froze up. Battery might be dead. You need to brush off, scrape off snow and ice. Buy yourselves extra time. Again, you could encounter slick roads, so you'll need to drive slower. Now, we've got some people that come from a long ways away to get to work. You just need to be prepared and plan accordingly, give yourself enough time. Make sure you're wearing the right clothes. You want to make sure that you're dressing in layers. Wear layered clothing so that you can remove it or reapply it if necessary. Instead of wearing one big, huge, bulky coat where you look like a snowman and you can't move around. You want to be able to have some maneuverability to yourself so you can do your equipment like you're supposed to and everything else. So dress in layers. You get too warm, take some layers off. Get cold, put some layers back on. If you're wearing hats, keep your head warm. Just remember that if you have that hat down over your ears with those earmuffs on and everything else, it restricts your hearing. So you want to keep those hats up when you're driving so you can hear, especially if you're going railroad crossings, things like that. You're going to need to be able to hear. You already got the noise of the fans, the heaters, the defrosters, the radio, and every other little bundle of joy behind you. So when you're wearing gloves, you probably want to wear gloves with leather or suede palms. Wool gloves, yeah, they'll keep your hands warm when they're dry, but when they're wet, they get very slippery. So it's a little bit harder to hold onto the steering wheel with wet wool gloves. So if they've got suede or leather palms, you're better off. Wear insulated socks and winter shoes. Cold feet feel numb. Everybody, that's pretty self-explanatory. Your feet get numb, then you have a hard time moving your feet around. Like I said, it affects feet movement, how you drive your vehicle. Avoid heavy boots. And we all like to wear them big, heavy snow boots, but that also restricts the movement of your feet, especially if you're having to go from gas to brake to gas. So just wear what's going to keep your feet dry. Along with the same thing, doesn't hurt to carry extra changes of socks, especially if you're one of those that doesn't go home between runs and stuff. Extra gloves, extra socks, things to keep your hands and feet dry. Like I said earlier, you want to make sure that you get to work a little bit earlier than you normally do during winter season. Allow yourself some extra time. Anticipate the need to start your bus, scrape off or defrost your windows and mirrors. Winter startup procedures, our mechanics will start the buses that do not have auxiliary heaters when the temperature is 25 degrees or lower. And anytime there is heavy frost or snow. Then of course dispatch would hand out the keys for those buses that have auxiliary heaters because they weren't started. Buses with auxiliary heaters will be started when the temperature is 15 degrees or lower. Okay? Again, or anytime there is heavy frost or snow. The temperature that they use or temperature they watch and they base everything off of is the temperature on the Weather Channel. So just because your bank that you drove by said that it's 23 degrees, doesn't mean your bus is going to be started. If it didn't say 23 degrees on the Weather Channel, then don't expect your bus to be started. That's what they go off of. Everything's based off the Weather Channel.
Clock in early?
Hmm?
Are they gonna let us clock in early?
For-
Yeah, we can't clock in 1 minute early.
Yeah,
For
no.
what? Do all that. Do all what? Scrape the windows and blah, blah, blah.
That'd be a determination you can make with your garage manager. I'm not gonna answer that question for her.
That's right.
Let's just cancel school when it's
So.
15 below.
There you go.
Like it says there, please do not go out and start your bus early and leave it. There's always a possibility that you have to be placed in a spare bus. So, listen to the weather and the forecast, in case they're forecasting ice and snow, so you can make sure to cover, something that I've seen you guys do around here, you take Walmart bags, grocery bags, and cover up your crossover mirrors with them. Good idea to keep that ice and snow from building up on those mirrors. If you can get it around your flat mirrors somehow, that's awesome, because that's less work than having to try and get things scraped off and cleaned up. So, it keeps the ice and snow off of them.
Same thing with your car.
Same thing with your cars too, If you got cars that are parked outside, it's gonna take a lot of Walmart bags to cover your windshield.
Rubber mats.
It might get stuck.
Rubber mats from Walmart.
Please make sure that you're observant of ice and snow that's built up around the lot. They try to clean up the lot the best they can. Sometimes it's a little difficult, especially between the buses, getting things cleaned up between the buses. Just be aware of ice and snow around your bus. Shorten your stride, take smaller steps. Just be
Hang on to the
mindful that
bus.
it's slippery.
Hang on to the bus next to
Yeah,
you.
if you need to, hang on to the bus next to you. Always use your handrails when you're entering and exiting your buses. You start tracking that winter sludge in on those steps and stairwells, they get really slippery. It's real easy to slip on them things, going up or coming down. And we don't need anybody getting hurt going up and down their buses, so use your handrails. Make sure you're always conducting a proper pre-trip. Take time to really go over your DVR book and identify those items that you really need to be paying more close attention to in the winter. Things like your lights, tires, emergency equipment, fuel level, heaters and defrosters, windshield wipers and washer fluid. Make sure that you have window scrapers on your bus. If you don't have window scrapers on your bus, then make sure you note it on your DVR so they can get you a window scraper. When you guys shut down your buses, make sure you're turning off all the switches. And everybody's always wondering, why do I need to turn them off? I'm just going to turn them right back on when I start my bus back up. Every switch that's on when that bus goes to fire up draws from that alternator. It takes away from its primary purpose of starting up that bus. So if you have a weaker battery or a weak alternator, you need to have all the attention of that alternator going towards the starter when you start that bus up. So make sure all your other switches are off. Make sure your two-way radio is turned on and the volume is turned up. And then please keep any and all unnecessary chatter to a minimum on the two-way radio. Especially during adverse conditions and stuff. There's going to be a lot of communication going back and forth on that radio. Students not showing up, people wondering where their bus is, all that other things. So we need to keep the chatter on the radio down to a minimum. That way you can also hear information from your fellow drivers on road conditions or accidents. So if you need to detour, you can detour up from your route. Remember to keep us informed if you're running, or dispatch informed if we're running more than 10 minutes late. Usually during adverse conditions like that, when there's a lot of things going on, the phones are going non-stop, so they may not be able to call on your route. They'll try to. They'll try to let the parents know that you are running late due to the weather and traffic. So they may call you and wanting to know what your ETA is to a certain stop. Good practice to get into would be to call in. If you've already started late, when you get to your first stop, radio in. I'm at my first stop, I'm running 15 minutes down. That way they know, okay, you're 15 minutes down, starting off. So then when they get parents calling in, instead of calling you, wanting to know how late you're running, they'll know they're running 15 minutes down. Now, it may increase as the route goes on, but it gives them a starting point to work off of. Strobe lights. If you're using your strobe lights during inclement weather because of poor or low visibility, that's fine. Days like today when it's nice and sunny out, there shouldn't be any strobe lights going on your buses. Yeah, you want to check them for your pre-trip, make sure you turn them back off. There's no reason to have strobe lights going on days like today. In fact, strobe lights, in my opinion, should hardly ever be used. I mean, very rarely, because the visibility usually isn't that bad to where they can't see that big bus. Okay. If they can't see that big bus, it ain't because they couldn't see that big bus.
Right.
So, if you do use your strobe lights, make sure when you get onto school premises, around other congested areas, that you're turning those strobes off. Because with our students that have seizure and sensory issues, it could cause problems. It could cause problems with some of our staff that has sensory issues. No second. So all strobes should be turned off at schools. I got a chuckle there. Huh? So please be prepared out there. Easy way to get prepared, especially during the winter time, is your seating charts. Also your SSD passenger information. I know they're in your accident packets. You can make extra copies of these and have them sitting out. It's probably a good thing to take these and go on and get them filled out ahead of time. Keep a couple copies with you. So if something does happen, that you're not having to mess around with trying to fill this out when something happens. It's already done. If you got a student that isn't writing that day, all you got to do is cross their name out. But you got it already done, already filled out. Instead of scrambling around trying to get this information for those first responders when they're out there trying to assist you and having to wait for stuff. Nobody likes standing around waiting when it's cold. But on here, it's going to have your name, address, phone number, and date of birth. I know we can't get date of birth off our route sheets, but you can get your date of birth from dispatch for your students. And then you got your seating chart. We have seating charts. You fill out a seating chart. That way you know you give this to your first responders so they know exactly where the students were sitting. That's important to them to know where a student was sitting in relationship to what happened, whether it was an accident, sliding off the road or whatever, something happened. That way they know where the student was in relationship to what contact made that bus. So when they have injuries and stuff, it helps them make determinations. And then this one's out of your accident packet. This just helps you identify what seats they were in. That seating chart over here, the middle, the aisle, the window, passenger side, driver side, so that you can have the numbers on your student information sheets. Any questions on any of this stuff?
I have a question.
Okay.
What, as a standby driver, what do you go by, as far as weather on the TV? Like at South, I went by.
If you're in a standby position, if you're in a 5-hour standby position, unless you are assigned to a route, you go off of SSD school schedule.
Okay, same,
Yeah,
the same.
it's the same. Yeah. Central or south, it's all the same.
Okay,
Our 5-hour standbys go off SSD school schedule. So if SSD schools are closed as a standby, then you don't have to come in. It doesn't stop you from coming in and helping out though. You can call in and say, hey, I can still make it in, do you want me to come in and help? They're gonna say, yeah, how fast can you get here? But yeah, so, but you're not required to be here if SSD schools are off. Okay. Now, tech schools and SSE schools are running different schedules. So pay close attention on the radio and TV when they call off, because they run different schedules. You'll notice on the screens, it'll say SSD schools off. It'll also say South Technical School off, or North County Technical School off. It's not all lumped together anymore under SSD schools. So you gotta pay attention. I would think they would all call off together, but if they don't, if it only says SSD schools closed, but it didn't say anything about the tech schools, then you can assume they're running, so. Because they run off different calendars.
And just to let you know too, we found out that there is a number that you can call during the winter closings like that. It's a 989-8450. You can call that number, 989-8450. It gives an automated prompt on there as to SSD only closing. So if you don't want to go online and look at the news station or check through the radio, whatever it is that you're wanting to get your information for closings, you could call that number and it will have a prompt that may be on, December 15th, special school district, that sort of thing. So it will have that in an automated setting. Now, they don't erase it, so if we have another setting that comes up close by, just make sure you listen to the full message. I don't know how that works, but if you was to go on there now, it's gonna say January something of this past year, we were closed at that point. So, and it's still on there, so, but that is a number you can check, and that will do SSD schools only. So
989.
if you have a partner school district, it's not gonna be on there, and you're still gonna have to check your news sources for that. 989-8450. Yeah. So I mean, that's a plus. Also SSD Life, guys. You can go on SSD Life. It will also list that information on there of SSD closings. As far as your partnerships, schools, Rittner, Pattonville, U City, wherever you're going, you're going to have to either go online and look at the news station. You click through to see, if it starts with an N, click on the N's and it will give you all the N's on there of closing of that, so you don't have to go through the whole list. I mean, it's kind of nice and simple way to do it, so that's just a rule of thumb, just in case they don't get the automated system to where it will tell you certain things. That's one way of checking.
And then one last thing before we get into the DVD. We're talking about be prepared, start preparing now. Now's the time to start looking at your routes, the streets that you're going down. If you have locations out there that you think may be hazardous or not travelable during snow and ice conditions, then now's the time to start identifying those, getting with dispatch, getting with us, so that we can take a look at those locations and make a determination, do we need a snow plan? Which means we're gonna let the parents know, can't get to your house if there's snow and ice in your street, you're gonna need to bring your student to a certain location. Because we can't just say, we're not picking up your student. Okay, so, but now's the time to start looking at that. Not the day you come in and there's snow and ice all over the place, I can't get my student.
Oh yeah, I need
Would've
to
been nice to
have you
have-
call.
Yeah, so, start looking at that now, so we can start looking at those things. And start getting the snow plan. So the next part of the meeting is gonna be a video on adverse weather condition driving.
that rain. I don't know where you live, but here it's been one of those seasons where it just won't stop. But because you drive a bus, you have to deal with adverse weather sometimes. Snow, rain, sleet, fog. Just like the Postal Service, it can't deter you from your appointed rounds. You gotta know what you're up against and be prepared. In this program, we're gonna talk about the different kinds of driving conditions you could face and how to adapt to them and keep yourself and your passengers safe. But first, let's deal with the misconception. Bad weather does not cause accidents.
But I read in the news that a snowstorm in New York caused a pileup.
Sorry, but that's not true. If a snowstorm could cause a pileup, then there'd be a pileup every time there was a snowstorm. No. Drivers reacting to the snowstorm caused the pileup, not the snowstorm. And you don't just run into one, like turning a corner. The increasing white flakes falling all around you should be enough to indicate a need to slow down and pull back. Overconfidence in bad weather causes accidents. The goal is to remove or reduce risk, and since bad weather can increase the risks, using the defensive driving techniques of Triple LC will show you how to react and how to keep weather from increasing your risks. Let's start with today's weather. Rain is by far the most common adverse weather condition you'll encounter. Sure, it looks harmless enough, but rain reduces your traction up to 55%. Reduced traction means it's a lot easier to skid, fishtail, or hydroplane, which can all lead to an accident. So slow down and leave more room. You should cut your speed by at least 25%. So if the speed limit is 40 miles per hour, you have to reduce your speed to 30.
25%, that's like 1/4, right? Anyway, even if I reduce my speed, the roads can still be slippery in the rain. So what should I do if I skid?
React calmly. Gently turn the wheel into the direction of the skid and ease off the brake and accelerator. And watch out for wet brake. That's when your brakes get wet from driving in heavy rain or through deep standing water. Wet brakes might pull to one side or they might not work at all. Gently push down and pump your brakes until you feel the normal resistance. And even if you don't get wet brake, be sure to leave yourself plenty of room to stop gradually anytime it's raining.
Last year, I rear-ended a car ahead of me. It happened during the heaviest rainstorm in Georgia in 40 years. Surely the rain caused this accident.
Wow, the heaviest rainfall in 40 years. Were there thousands of rear-end collisions all around you or all over the state?
Well, no, I only know about my accident.
But if the rain caused the accident, then surely every car would have rear-ended the car in front of them. They would all have crashed. It was how you reacted to the rain that caused your accident. I'm afraid you were at fault. You should have slowed down and left more room. Did you not know it was raining?
Yeah. I guess it was my fault.
Speaking of leaving room, in the rain you'll need to increase your following distance to at least 5 seconds to prevent any wet collisions. Reduced traction means it takes longer for you to stop. That extra second in your following distance gives you the room you need. And never use cruise control in the rain. If you leave more room, you will reduce the risk. As an added precaution, you may have local rules or regulations that require you to keep your headlights on at all times. But if you don't, be sure they're on whenever you need your windshield wipers. Even a slight mist, snow flurries, fog, or light rain will limit everyone's visibility. Turn on your light so the other guy can see you, and make sure you can see as well. Use both your windshield wipers and the defroster to clear away rain and condensation that can build up on your windshield. And do you know what happens when it rains in dry or desert-like places?
I suppose a bunch of rain falling on top of flat, dry ground would cause some flooding.
That's exactly right. In dry and desert areas, the ground doesn't absorb water very well. Everything flows to low areas and starts to build up, causing flash floods. And sometimes that water can move very fast and be very deep. So never attempt to cross standing or running water. If there are flooding conditions, your supervisor or dispatcher should let you know if there are any known detours. And last but not least, when you're approaching a bus stop in the rain, Always slow down early so you don't splash pedestrians and passengers waiting to get on.
So if you're going 60 miles an hour and you need to reduce your speed, what do you reduce it to? 45. So do you guys slow down early when you're approaching